Welcome to the Startup Grind.
I just want to reiterate Allison's welcome to Startup Grind. I know we're talking just a little bit about the space that they have here, which is pretty amazing. Once you came in the door, there's no way that you couldn't see the beautiful architecture. I think they really this building and done an amazing job. And I think that the physical things that you've done are almost as awesome as the work that you produce. And I know college says it's probably not an event, but Overeem is open to the tours. So if people are interested in coming and learning more about their agency and the amazing work that they do. So we couldn't do what we do if it wasn't for great folks here at Overeem. So I see some new faces, so I'm going to just chat briefly a little bit about what Startup Grind is. We are a global startup community. We're in 173 cities and 67 countries, probably a little more at this point. Basically we are here to educate, inspire, and to connect entrepreneurs. We do that in a monthly setting like this. All over the world, these events are taking place kind of every day of the month. There's something going on. We also have an annual event that we do every year. We're based out in Mountain View, California. And again, the way we kind of came to be, we're a very young organization, only about 5 years old. Our founders, Derek Anderson and Spencer Nielsen, who are entrepreneurs and basically came together to share their war stories. They began to grow. They began to, more and more of their friends came. They began to hold it at a facility. And at some point, someone said, hey, can you bring this to my city? And Derek always says, I don't know why you want me to do that, but of course I can do that. And the rest is history. The Albany unit, the division of Startup Grind Albany, was just over maybe a year and a half. I started this last January. And at that point, of the scale, when I started, we were in 50 cities and we were in 25 countries. And so now just a little bit over a year and a half later, we are probably, because as in February, we were in 173 and 67, so I'm sure it's more at this point. So I'm excited tonight because two reasons. May is Female Founders Month, and so I'm excited that the guest that we have tonight, some of you know, some of you don't know, so I'll be introducing to some and presenting to others, is Dr. Kimberly Fredericks from the Sage Colleges. She's Associate Dean of the School of Management, and we'll talk a bit more about what she's doing there, the innovative things. When you think about academics and education, it wouldn't perhaps be your first go-to thought about education, but we're going to show you why. It's a very nice mix. So Startup Grind has a tradition that I'm going to invite you all to join in. We would very much have at least one standing ovation. So I'd like to ask you all to rest on your feet and help me welcome Dr. Kimberly Fredericks from the Sage Colleges. I'm just excited again to have you here. Education, we were chatting a little bit earlier that education is not necessarily the first thought when you think entrepreneurship, when you think business. Mm-hmm. We're going to be talking about the School of Management, but what you have found, what we have found, is that really education is a business. I think I'd like to start off with you talking a little bit about Sage, just Sage the college, and then we'll kind of chunk it down to the School of Management, and then your vision of how education is actually a business.
Well, thank you for having me. First, if you are watching or in the audience and you think, why me, why am I here talking about entrepreneurship, and I think the message is that every day I live in fear, just like an entrepreneur or a business owner. I have a fear of being successful by providing the right mix of services to my students, to my faculty, to my staff, to my colleagues every day. I face the same problems as any entrepreneur would, scarce resources, and dealing with the management tools that we all have to deal with every single day, whether it's human resources, recruitment and retention, finance, marketing, those types of things. So very much education, higher education is a business. We don't tend to think of it that way, but it really is in a mature market, education is a business. So when we talk about Sage, we talk about how we're doing things differently. We make a difference in how we try to educate students, to be entrepreneurs themselves or to think entrepreneurially or think about their careers in an entrepreneurial way, because I think that's important. I think it's important that we teach them to think about their lives and their steps in an entrepreneurial way. So they're outside, testing the market with themselves, just like an entrepreneur would test the market with their product or service. We're constantly allowing them to test the market. So I think that within the School of Management, within the Sage colleges, we try to shape and model that behavior and go through the same steps with a startup that other people would. And our first primary market is the students, but our secondary market is the organizations that are hopefully going to employ students when they get done. And we want to make the best product that we can out in the marketplace, as anybody wants to.
So one of the things that, as a business, and we'll go back and forth between the business and the similarities to the educational environment, one of the things about a business is really how do I make myself known? How do I differentiate myself from my competitors? And you said something that I really hadn't thought about, which is that the Sage is a smaller school. So talk a little bit about how Sage has done that, really trying to increase their prominence.
I think it's first is creating a good product in itself. I think what we provide to our students, what we provide to faculty as a team and our staff is very unique potentially than other people. There is not more caring people for the students than I think that we as a group are. And I think that's very different. We really care through from the time they come to us, whether you're a freshman or a transfer student, we care about your journey and your path, and it's about that. It's not about us, it's how we can facilitate that for you. And allowing you to understand what your journey is going to be for you and how to best create the skill set that you need to go out and into the world and be the best you can be on your path and your journey. So I think that makes it unique, but the focus on the quality sometimes is being your first priority, sometimes doesn't lend itself to being more widespread and more wide known. I think we have a great word of mouth. If you come to us, we're going to take care of you, and that spreads on out. But, your first is having the quality experience and getting out of it first, and I think that's where we're at, absolutely.
Another thing that is similar with businesses and with academia is that very often an entrepreneurial endeavor comes about because it's to solve a problem. So talk a little bit about how, maybe not Sage in particular, but the School of Management, how you've approached that, because I know you were in the ground level stages as the School of Management was being built. We had created a school about 5 or 6 years ago, and we're unique in the sense that we have 3 areas that we're in. We're in 3 counties now. So we have our Albany campus, we have our Troy campus, and now we have a site in Malta. So we're in Saratoga County, and I think that presents a unique component that other schools do not have, other colleges, other universities don't have, is that imprint into the community. And so when I came on about 7 years ago, we looked very different than we did. And we had other players around us, and a good colleague of mine, Professor Eileen Brownell, was over in Troy, and so we decided to condense and start transforming who we were as a team to just try to provide the services that we saw, to create the vision of the quality of where we wanted to go. And so I think that part of that transformation, building a team that has some unique talents and are very different than myself and other people. And I think that's one component I hope that we impart and model the behavior is, and that I hope entrepreneurs who have a healthy dose of fear have a good comparison of some self-confidence and some humility. Confidence enough to try something, but humility enough to say, I'm not great at this, or it didn't work out the way I wanted, to pivot, to move on and try something different. So I think over the last 5 or 6 years, we've built a team that is of faculty that really have some unique expertise, and we're not afraid to hire people that are smarter than us. So, and move on, Right.
if that's what they need to do.
And that's one of the things that I've heard, I think, over the last probably 14 or 15 months as I've talked to different entrepreneurs and and also it's industry agnostic. It doesn't matter because the team, putting the right players in place is critical, I think, to any endeavor. So you talked about the team building and relationships as well. One of the things that you mentioned is actually creating within a traditional, the Sage, if we look at Sage, it's just that traditional environment. And then within that, you have this nugget of the school of management. And talk about how that's building that difference.
And it is. We're in a larger structure, but I think we're very different than other areas around us, and potentially other, schools of management or schools of business, whatever you want to call that. What the faculty do is a model of what we want the students to do. So we empower the students to take risk and fail. And I think that's very different in a controlled environment. It's different to teach them to fail. And it's okay to fail, it's okay to pivot and find a different path, because you might learn more from failing than from being successful. I don't think you do any good by telling students, you did a great job. Oh, that's fantastic. That's a great idea. It doesn't move them to the next level, and it doesn't allow them to think critically and be entrepreneurial about their career if all we're doing is saying positive things. It's not a very popular stance, I'm sure, but from the moment we get students, we allow them to fail in a controlled environment, and we also allow them to be creative. And I think you have to do that. So one of the courses, again, Professor Brownell teaches is she creates, as freshmen, she allows them to create a business plan and come up with an idea. Now this idea of a product or service might never make it to the market, and that's okay. Going through and being creative in that process is the start, that it's okay to be creative, and it's okay for it not to work. And what have you learned from that? And most entrepreneurs, that's testing the market. That's testing the market in a controlled environment. And then you go out and have experiential learning where hopefully they're testing the market about their skills. And we're getting feedback from the market, the consumer, the organizations that say, I wish they did this, or I wish your students had this skill set. And then we adapt and modify based on that. So I think that's a very different way of thinking. And then faculty, you have to allow them to fail. Every time they teach a class, it's not the same class. So you might be teaching business law in the fall, and then you teach that same class in the spring. It's a different audience, a different demographic. So you have to allow them to be entrepreneurial. You have to allow them to take risks and teach differently. And they might fail, it might not work, and there's nothing wrong with saying to your students, you know what, this isn't working the way I thought it, we need to pivot, we need to do something else, and learn from that. So every time you're getting better. You're testing that market, you're learning how to teach better, you're trying different things. It keeps the students engaged, and it moves you forward. So everywhere you need to mimic the behavior you're hoping your students are going to have out in the workplace, so that when they get out, when our final product comes out in that product life cycle, that they're going to be a good match. Not only are they going to know themselves and their next steps of what they're going to do, but they're going to go out and be competitive in the workplace.
Right.
And I think it's important.
One of the fuels, so to speak, of a business really has to do with the passion and the energy and the enthusiasm of the entrepreneur, the business owner. So if you use that same model and look at what is it about being an educator, just listening to you talk about it, obviously this is something that you're very passionate about. So what delights you about being an educator?
I think the ability to truly make a difference. So I know that's cliche, but you can truly see a transformation in someone if you have them 2 years, or if you're lucky enough to have them 4 years, maybe go on to graduate school and really hone their skills in some other way, that you can provide them with whatever that they're missing, and that self-confidence. So that we've had students that have come to us and from New York City or other areas where they don't even look you in the eye, because that's not the culture they grew up in. So we have to give them the self-confidence to know that they can act differently, and give them the skill set to create relationships, not only with us, but in the community that'll be long-lasting. So they're going to be prepared for their life and have those life skills. So it truly is the ability to transform someone for a lifetime. And it truly matters, from something where they're employable, and that can be the complete difference for them and their family.
And you talked a little bit earlier about pivoting, which is a hallmark really of the success of an entity or a business is really, if it's not working, the statistics of businesses that don't make it. And sometimes you kind of wonder, is part of that because they just don't know when to either pivot or they stay in that way. So it sounds like in any of those journeys, there's some things that you overcome. What are those? What are some of those things?
I think it's really important. They don't pivot, and they also, if they either pivot too late or they're too afraid to go out and test the market. I mean, you have to get out there and really test your products or service with what's going on. So the sooner students you can get out there and work and test the market to see what's a fit for me, what's a fit for them. It's important, and learning from your failures. It's not the end of the world. We're going to fail a million times in our lifetime. It's what you do with a failure that makes us very different. You know, you put an egg and a potato in boiling water and you get a very different result. It's the same boiling water. Since how you overcome that, how you learn from it, and how you adapt, and really focusing on the team. So we model a team as educators, as faculty. We want the students to model a team, and I think that's a critical skill that sometimes we're lacking. Yes, we give group projects. That's not the same as understanding how to work in a team and living and surviving in a team and giving truly real-world experience. So when they go out on an internship, there is always a threat they can get fired because it has to be real. It has to be, if you don't have a threat of being fired, it's not the same. We can take it back, but it's not the same lived experience. You don't have the same skin and intensity in the game as you would with that threat. And I think that's important. And to let them know in real-world situations what's going on. That doesn't mean we don't help and support and mentor, but I think that's really important is that you allow truly to simulate what's really happening.
Because because again, what's going to happen when they actually graduate?
Right.
Talk a little bit about, and that you have been, it's kind of been a recurring theme of what you've said so far, but really it sounds like the School of Management, you've turned it into a business. So talk about education as a business, because again, education is not the first thought when you think about entrepreneurship. So
no, and some people wouldn't think that education is a business, but it's a tough business. It's a very higher education is in a mature market. So right now the trend is there's less kids in grammar school, so it rolls downhill. As there's less people in K through 8th grade, there's going to be less college students, and we have more people coming back to be educated. When we had the downturn in 2008 or so, when the market went down and unemployment was high, I remember when I was in graduate school and you had PhDs working at Home Depot because there were no academic jobs, and that was common. I work at Home Depot. Somehow they left the PhD off their resume when they did that. But it's the same toughness that you have in the marketplace. So now almost a graduate degree is becoming the new undergraduate degree. It's a very tough market, it's a very mature market. So people are looking in that mature phase, looking for the same group of people and what attracts them and what makes you different. So you have, as an institution, you have to differentiate yourself because, yes, there's different levels of education, absolutely. But when you're a smaller school, you have to focus on the things that you're really good at. Just like any other business, is to understand what you're good at and continue to do the things that you're good at and expand in ways that you can, but not overstepping your reach, which I always think is a difficult for any business, any entrepreneur to sort of juggle. Looking out into the market, finding a need, finding a niche, finding a problem that you see and filling that problem. And so, but doing it in a careful sort of way to do that. And I think everybody also is successful based on the people that surround you.
Right.
So it is a collective vision amongst all of us that we see where we want to go and how to get there, and thinking through all the scenarios, the what ifs.
Right.
What if that, and then being prepared. There's nothing better than preparation. So understanding your market, understanding your place in it, what are the calculated steps to move us forward, and then having action steps where you're continuously testing, getting information, refining, and moving forward.
So what I'm hearing is it's really about the right team. It's really about strategic planning, and also it sounds like what's been really important is building the right culture. So talk a little bit about that, because all of those things kind of combine. You can have, baking a cake and, you can have some of those ingredients, but really if the mix isn't right, talk about building a culture that works.
I think everybody who is working on your team has to have the same values and ethics, also has to have the same vision, and you have to work on being part of a team, which, from the outside might look like you're functioning all the time, but on the inside you want to kill each other sometimes, and that's okay. And you have to work through everybody's, strengths and weaknesses. But on the outside, you support each other constantly. And I think that's part of creating the culture of, you take an ownership of your area, of your house,
right,
of your students, of your community. And I think that's important. When we take care of our community, like we take care of our students who are part of our larger community,
right,
and our larger family.
Right.
So, we want to have a positive impact with our community, be a good community partner. So it's not just we're a business inside Albany County or a business inside Rensselaer County or another site inside of Saratoga County. We want to make a difference in the community and give back.
Right.
Because that long-lasting relationship building has positive impact for everyone.
Sure.
And so you create the quality culture inside and you create it outside, and you do the outreach to provide something for that community,
right,
and be a good community partner.
And so the outreach, kind of circling back a little bit to what we talked about earlier, is the problem solving. And so I know that you mentioned just briefly the new initiative going out and taking it from Albany and taking it from Troy and bringing it to Malta, to Saratoga.
Right, to Saratoga, yes.
And so in that tech-smart location is where a lot of that ecosystem is beginning to build and grow. Talk about the vision that created that and providing how that played out.
A while ago, SUNY Albany used to have programs inside Malta, and they sort of left. And then there's a lot of growing industry inside Malta and Saratoga County. Although, Global Foundries, Stewart's, there are a lot of companies in that county, but there's not a lot of educational opportunities. There's only one other MBA program inside Saratoga County. And so looking at that, it's people driving down to us. We love that, but that's not always possible to do that. And now we're balancing very busy work life and family life, and time is really of essence. And we want to be supportive of that. We're really supportive of that balance as a culture inside Sage colleges, inside art in the School of Management, and want to be supportive of students, and particularly non-traditional students. And everybody is somewhat non-traditional in their own right. Even day undergraduate students are non-traditional because most of them work these days, and they have to, and that's understandable. So there's this gap where people are driving potentially an hour, Glens Falls, down to get their education, and that's 2 hours out of their day that they can't spend with their family or do other things, or even on work. So we saw a need, and we figured out how we could do it in a way that was going to provide utility to the area and be flexible, because we're about your journey and providing the right mix of education in a flexible manner that's going to allow you to get out of it what you want. We never have anybody come into one of our programs where it's not a good match. Because it's not good for you, it's not good for me. That's the last thing we want, is you to come out of one of our programs and say, I didn't get what I wanted. Well, if you don't know what you want, we're going to try to make a difference and figure out what you want, but you have to make the most of your education. It is too resource intensive, time, money, etc. So everybody needs to find the best fit for them, and find somebody that's going to have that personalized attention. We advise our students personally, whether you're a graduate or undergraduate. We want to see you. We tend to have smaller classes, and it's a different type of experience. And sometimes that works for some folks, and sometimes it doesn't. The other part is the flexibility. So you can take a class in Malta, you can take a class in Albany, or we even have online classes. So depending, some people might have positive things that happen in their life. They're going to get married, they're going to have a kid. That's all fantastic, but sometimes if you stop your educational endeavors, it's 3 times as hard to pick it back up. So maybe you need to take an online class for a semester, or maybe there's a particular class and you're going to be around Albany and you want to take it in Albany. So that flexibility and that combination, I think, is unique for some institutions. And we always try things differently, because I think we are different. Again, sticking with the quality. We're not overstepping our bounds so that students aren't going to get the experience that we want them to have. That's not who we are. The same faculty who teach on the Albany campus, teaching in Malta. So you will see me in Albany, you'll see me in Malta. It's not so that we again have quality control, and we're also small enough to be flexible. So we can react to the needs of the community, the business community. So if they say, for example, we want employees coming out having Excel skills, well, we can adapt and add that to our programs, as any good entrepreneur would. They hear the market, we want a need, how can we adapt our product or service to meet the needs of what we're hearing from the community?
Right.
And so, being a small institution allows us to do that a little more nimbly than in a large bureaucratic situation. And I think that's one of our advantages, that we can move quickly in the market, and we don't have to wait through where sometimes maybe we're going to miss an opportunity.
Sure.
Because we can't get through that structure.
So sort of the speedboat that's able to very quickly and is agile and can course correct very quickly, as opposed to the yacht that's going to
Right.
take quite a bit of time to change. Have you found, I'm thinking about what you said about the longevity, and it's between 5 and 7 years in that range for the school. So as we, again, make an analogy to a business, you're kind of over that rocky initial infancy, and you're kind of getting your stability underneath you. Are there, either for faculty or students, are there characteristics or attributes or mindsets that you just kind of have seen that, I'm seeing this sort of show up?
Again, other than having a sense of self-reflection of what you do well, and being able to learn from that. I think a really good professor, as a really good business owner, says, wow, I had a bad day. That lecture stunk. Or that product I created or that feature really wasn't what resonated with the consumer. And be able to take from that and say, okay, next time I'm going to do differently, and the journey is going to be different, and you're recreating that every time. So when I say every class is different, every semester is different, you have to treat it that way, because it's a different mix of people in that room. So I think that sense of self-reflection, that balance of that humility versus some self-confidence, and we try to impart on students that to get rid of some of the fear of failing. I think that holds back some entrepreneurs, because I have to be a perfectionist. I have to, have everything in place before I leap. Well, sometimes you've missed an opportunity if you haven't leaped a little, if you haven't taken a risk. And so allowing them to teach them it's okay to take a risk.
Sure.
It's okay to be fearful but not hold you back.
Right.
Is something that's going to, sort of serve you through your life. That I'm going to be able to think outside of the box.
Right.
I know that, again, a cliche, but be creative.
Sure.
To think differently, and that's okay. I don't have to be like everybody else. And organizations, companies, again, our secondary market is hopefully somebody's going to graduate and get the job they want.
Sure.
And be a great citizen of the community.
Sure.
Is going to be able to have that skill set, that critical thinking, the entrepreneurial thinking of themselves, and in their workplace that's going to be valued.
Talk a little bit about how do you create it sounds like there are a lot of strategic partnerships that you have both in the community and in the business community. How do you select those partners?
I think it's partly with you build relationships over time, and you have to align yourself with people that have similar ethical sort of mindset you do, similar passion, vision, and also those folks that have different skill sets than you do that can help sustain you in different ways. And so I think it's relationship building takes time, but it's also a portfolio of relationships that you build as an individual, as a business, and if you think of any good business's board of directors, hopefully they have someone who represents a different area that they're going in, whether it's a different strategic marketing area, or you have a lawyer and a banker, or you have someone who's going to facilitate your vision and your journey to move you forward, but has similar thinking about where you want to go.
Right.
That they appreciate where you want to go, but then also is able to have a true give and take relationship
Sure.
with you.
Sure.
That can say, that wasn't your best idea, and you need people to be honest with you about that.
So, as you're creating this environment for your students, and so they've got the academic experience, they've got the classroom experience, they've got the relationship building with their peers, they've got the relationship building with their faculty, that they're able to watch this role modeling that takes place. I know that Sage also offers some travel, there are different components. Do you think that that contributes to part of that rounding out experience?
I do. I mean, there are trips almost yearly to different countries to look at different businesses and how other countries are doing business, whether it's China, Italy, or future trips to doing that. So that students do have that option to be well-rounded if they want that experience. Absolutely. So I think that's just another bag of opportunities that they can take advantage of. It's not 100% necessary. I mean, you can still immerse yourself in different types of people and different types of organizations to understand those nuances between domestic and international business and those types of things. But it's just added value. If you want it, have that experience, we're going to try to help facilitate and provide that for you.
Okay.
So, again, and a lot of other colleges do that type of thing. But I think, again, it's added value. It's all about how you gauge that and bring it back to what are they learning for themselves. How is going to Italy or how is going to China and understanding their financial markets and their systems and their commerce going to help me here?
Right.
How is it going to make me more well-rounded as an employee, as a business, eventual maybe business owner?
Right.
How's that going to work to my advantage?
Using that and going back to the same analogy about businesses, talk about the importance of a lot of companies would have an apprenticeship or even come alongside mentorship, and that talk about what is offered from Sage with that side.
I think that everybody needs a mentor or a role model to look up to, and I think you have to emulate that behavior. And I think that we provide, whether it's mentorship to our students, mentorship to community partners, if it's a new startup business or a community business, a mom and pop business, and we can provide an added value or service and a relationship with them, I think that's really important. So mentorship occurs all over the place, and I think you're emulating that behavior.
Right.
And mentorship is a two-way street. It doesn't mean that I'm just mentoring one way. There are times that I'm being mentored by students about things that I have no idea about, but learning, like tweeting and those kinds of things, which I refuse to do. But they teach me things, and they mentor me through the process. So it's always back and forth. And I think if people align themselves with some good mentors and model that behavior, it's gonna be hopefully a lifelong relationship. And I expect that. When students leave us, hopefully they're going to come back and I tell them to come back. And I want updates. I want to know what you're doing and how you're doing. That's never going to change. And hopefully they go out and affect their communities. It's about paying it forward too.
Sure.
It's not just about educating them. And I think we really stress that, so that if you see something in your community, you might not be able to affect change exactly now, even though little things can happen. Down the road, pay it forward.
Right.
And we're a big proponent, honestly, of paying it forward. So, okay, we can do something for you. What are you going to do 5, 10 years from now? Think of someone else who is in your position and help them.
Sure.
And I think that's also about a community building.
Right.
And that's about providing a well-rounded experience. Because it's not just being good employees, it's being good citizens of their community. And if we could do those things, we're probably doing a decent job most days.
One of the other things that a company always has to think about is not just continuity, which is key, because if it doesn't continue, then it's not going to work, but scaling. And so you have done, the School of Management has done some amazing things in a relatively short period of time. How do you keep the momentum? How do you scale?
I think that's everybody wrestles with that. It's also a chicken and egg problem. You know, you want more students, but then you get more students, and what are you going to do? I think we always keep quality in mind to make sure we can provide the same level of service no matter how many more students we have or how many more relationships or partnerships. And if we can't do a good job or create a good relationship that's positive in both directions, we won't push forward in that. And I think keeping that in your head is really important, and having a vision of the steps that you're going to get there and what resources you need to get to those steps. As an entrepreneur, you're never, ever going to have enough resources to do everything you want. Ever. Never. And it's the same in education.
Right.
You're never going to have all the resources to do all your big dreams. It doesn't stop you from dreaming big or thinking big, but you have to sort of have a 1, 3, 5-year plan in contingencies. Here's my ideal, here's sort of the middle of the road, here's my worst case scenario. And how do you adapt? You plan for really great and you plan for really bad, but maintaining your vision of quality so that everybody has the same personal journey, personal experience that you want them to get. That's the important part. And I think that we at Sage are really good at doing that, probably not great at telling our story of how good we do. We have a lot of positive word of mouth, sort of the gem that not a lot of people hear about, but we really take what we do seriously. And, you know, just like another product that if, you know, in healthcare we create products all the time that are going in other people's bodies, and that's pretty significant. Not quite dramatic, but somebody's entrusting me with their son or daughter, and we take that to heart.
Right.
And to, you know, and that sometimes means we kick them out.
Right.
Because they're not ready to be
Sure.
in school yet. They need to go get some life experience, or we have to give some tough love.
Right.
But, you know, there are times, one of my faults, and some of my colleagues could probably say that, is that I care more about someone's education than they do, and I can't.
Right.
I can't. They have to care more than I do,
Sure.
or at least as much as I do about their education, because it's a gift.
Right.
It's a gift.
Absolutely.
Having a great idea and being able to create a business around it is awesome. But there's a responsibility, hopefully some people feel,
Sure.
about it, behind that. And you have to have vision, and you have to, again, methodically go through that.
Sure.
There are very few times you create instantaneous. There's very few Facebooks that boom, all of a sudden
Sure.
you're in that area. Most of us are trugging along,
Sure.
you know, creating the chip clip or something these days.
Absolutely.
Although if I created the chip clip, I would have,
You
you know,
probably-
we'd be in a
you
different
would-
position,
you would
wouldn't
be
we?
doing
You know,
a different
when I was a
kind of
kid, it was a
thing.
clothespin. And then we had to make it plastic and have
Sure.
the chip clip.
Sure.
But, you know, I digress.
No,
See?
everything you're saying
If we made a chip clip, we'd be rich by now.
is right.
So,
And this would be the inventor show. Or
this would be the inventor show.
It would be quirky.
You're right,
And
see?
we'd be doing a different thing. So, I think we talked a lot about hopefully giving some revelation about the similarities between business and education, and kind of opening that up where that wouldn't be your first thought of, oh, you know, an educational institute is entrepreneurial, or it is a business. And I think even when you said that, that kind of made me raise my eyebrows a little bit as well. And I want to leave a little bit of time for some questions, but I guess what I would say is, what's next? Then you can take that from a couple of different ways, like what do you see next for the School of Business? What do you see next coming down the pike from Sage? What's next for Kim? Any or all of those?
Any or all of
Any
that. What's next for hopefully the School of Management is to continue finding those needs and services, whether that means putting more programs in Malta because we know the population is there. And although we are not producing engineers or doctors or lawyers, that doesn't mean we're not creating a great product.
Absolutely.
Critical thinkers, creative folks who have good business skills.
Sure.
And you know, if the industry now is looking for a lot of technical folks to work up in manufacturing and
Right.
things in this particular area, we might not be educating those people,
Sure.
but they have children and spouses. there's a need there. There's a need to help them out. And it might not be English as their first language. And that they need a caring environment that someone's going to be patient with them and help them move forward. So I think that's one of the goals of maybe providing more educational opportunities in that area where there's, when you start going up north, there's not as many choices for education as there is, sort of in the immediate capital region. We are inundated around Albany with a lot of educational choices. As you move up in more rural New York State, those choices sort of condense. And so providing for that need, I think, would be in a calculated way, looking at that market and saying, what do they need, asking what they need, being part of a good community in the Saratoga County is our next immediate steps. And in the next year or so is looking at that type of expansion. And, I'm lucky enough to work with a great group of people and students and colleagues and community partners that share, I think, my passion and my vision. So it's 99.9% of the time I'm pretty happy to go to work. So if anybody who can say that and get paid to read some of the stuff you want to read, it's not a bad gig. So I can't complain.
And really kind of brought it full circle. Again, it's about really kind of being nimble-minded, having an agile mindset, really being able to being very aware and intuitive about what the need is going to be. And then, it's you can see a need, but then to be able to take that second step and really create a good fit for that thing. And that sounds like that's a lot of what Sage and the school management has been doing very successfully and will continue to do. So I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions. So does anybody have any questions that they want to ask?
Yeah, it sounds like what you've done is you saw the reduction in student population, decided to well find more students by going to where the students, different type of student was. So in other words, into the community where people are working. Is that correct?
I think so. I mean, people should have choice about their education and have flexibility in there. And there's not choice up there. So providing our first graduate program in Malta is providing choice for folks. So they don't necessarily have to leave work. You're working in Saratoga, you have to leave work and you have to drive anywhere from 25 to 40 minutes to get your educational option. And we know that's moving you forward. And so it's a choice and bringing our same brand of how we do things into a different location. Not compromising, not doing anything differently, just moving it to a different location. So education, again, can be more accessible to people. It's too hard to juggle all the things that working folks are doing these days.
So that's a totally different student population than having a resident student population that comes to you.
It depends. So all of our graduate programs are complete or part-time programs. So we cater to working adults. Classes are in the evening, 6 to 9, once a week, or we sometimes have classes that are one Saturday a month. So that same mentality is moving forward just to a different location. And we really understand the needs of adult learners as well.
What are the difficulties in getting the faculty to make that adjustment as well? Because that's changing the community in which they're working, which can be a different kind of stretch.
Other than the 30 minutes that they will hurt me to drive from Albany to Malta, we have the same graduate population here. Hopefully it's going to have more eclectic mix of folks. We really like differences. We accept differences. We like different students. We also have non-traditional evening programs for bachelor's degree programs. So we have day programs for a traditional college student. We have evening completer programs for more adult learners. And we have graduate programs that are geared towards part-time working adults. So it's only in the drive. It is not in the delivery. It's not in the mentality. The faces will be similarly different. Up there, it might be, we have lots of international students. We have a lot of folks here in Albany that look quote different from different countries, and we welcome that difference. It really adds, their experiences add to our education as well as the other colleagues and students around. Just like if you're working in a different area, a different industry, someone working in banking is very different than somebody working in health insurance. So it was a team sort of effort and seeing that vision and saying, okay, I want to be part of that as a group decision.
So has the student population expanded from this effort? Or are you just sort of maintaining, because you're dealing with a shrinking population?
Right now, overall, it's a shrinking population.
So what is your population?
I think our population is moving forward, which we all hope for.
Right.
And so we start this fall, and it's gotten a lot of positive buzz, and again, it's all in the delivery, it's in the implementation.
Mm-hmm.
So people need to hear about it and then come and see that what we're talking about is slightly different than what other people are doing.
Good son.
Anyone?
In what ways are you looking to improve your staff? Are you seeing opportunities to improve your staff with the expansion that you've done in the online programs also?
I think that there is opportunity to grow. The faculty are also, within the School of Management, look very much like, very diverse. We have a professor from Turkey, a professor from China. We're having a professor come on from Vietnam. And that is a complete, I think it does, there's the positive and negative sometimes, but it adds a richness to the student experience. And so I think that also will resonate to a different population. If the population looks different in a different county, those things will resonate with people. So I think as we grow, we continue to expand the faculty, expand staff as we need it. Again, that's the chicken and the egg sort of scenario. But, and making sure we right size. We're not going to grow too fast that we're going to sacrifice quality. At the same time, we want to provide all the resources and the same level of experience no matter what.
I think there was a question in the back.
Oh, yeah. So you kept speaking about quality and quality of the program.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering, in respect to quality, how does that pour out into the students being able to not just be stuck in their major choice, but also be able to explore other interests that they have?
I think that with any academic institution, you need to come in and try different things out and find the right fit for you. That's the time to do it. When you go to college, particularly if you're young, you need to try things out, and that's why experiential learning in particular is really important. So I love students who want to come in and be lawyers, and then we have them talk to our law professor and explain to them that it's not what you see on TV. Being a lawyer is not as glamorous as and then you go do an internship and come back and then tell me you want to be a lawyer. It's a completely different experience oftentimes than what they think it's going to be. So exploring, that's what college should be doing, shaping your own thinking outside of, especially if you're young, outside of your family, and then trying new things. So you have different general education plus, the major that you pick and the ability to say, you know what, hopefully I see a class, I take a class, I really like that area of study and I want to go explore. Talk to people. It has nothing to do with business itself, the school of management or anything. Talk to people when you go to college. Just make sure you make the most of your experience and you find a partner who's going to help you on that journey. So you have to think of your university or college as your partner in your education.
Just to piggyback on what she was saying there, you had mentioned experimental learning. I think what she's saying is traditionally when you pick a major, you're locked in there, and when you try to step out and take courses outside of that major, you're usually told you can't because you don't meet the path that you're expected to be able to graduate. So are you saying that Sage College provides an opportunity for you to do that?
It depends. Honestly, it depends on your major. If you want to be a nurse, all right, there are certain numbers of credits you have to get that licensure. So if you're contained in a particular field where you need to have so many classes in a certain area, you're more constrained than being able to go and explore majors. But hopefully we're pushing you out as a major to go try it out, to make sure that's what you want to do. Go and hang out, volunteer in a hospital. Make sure that that's the career path that you want. If it's a different major, it adds for a little more exploration. Every college, university has general education requirements that you should go out and take a risk. I know kids sometimes have the mentality, I'm going to take, ceramics because it's going to be easy. But if that doesn't make you test something else out, it's not always helpful for you to figure that out. So if you have a good advisor, and I think at Sage we pride ourselves in trying to push kids to go outside of their comfort zone to explore different things, because you're never going to find your niche to do that. And you don't want somebody graduating, okay, and ready to take their nursing exam and say, I don't like blood. Right? That's going to be probably an occupational hazard that you'd like to avoid doing. So yes, there is some room for exploration, but again, if you are on a very licensed path or accredited program, some of that is really, unfortunately, very prescribed by New York State to get you to that path, so there's less choices. If you're strategic in the small amount of wiggle room that you have, it can help. But those are the kids that I would say, in the summertime, go out and visit, the profession that you want to be in, and make sure that that's what you want to do. Because again, it's too much resource-intensive energy put into that, time, money, otherwise.
Thank you.
Paul?
So when I think of business, I think of getting value.
Mm-hmm.
Getting value for your money.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that is difficult is the crushing expense that it costs for children to be educated, for young people to be educated. They go out into the world and have this huge, unbelievable debt, and it's a huge burden that kind of stops them from pursuing entrepreneurial dreams or other things that they might like to do. I got a student loan, I got to pay it off, I got to work in this job that I hate, but I got to pay the debt. What I was curious about is this. So you have now, obviously there's other colleges around here that provide similar things to you, but there's also, edX, where you can take online courses free or cheap and achieve technical skills very cheaply. You might not have the credential, but you get that experience. Do you see that as a threat to what you're trying to do with your business?
Not exactly. I think that's a different market. Someone who's self-motivated to be able to get those skill sets on their own, it's one step away from online education. Online education is not for everybody. Right. We provide online courses, and we've created online courses. The impetus for us actually creating online courses was more about flexibility and reach than about everybody jumping into the online pool. I don't have campuses. I have old campuses, which are beautiful, but they're not very handicap friendly. And nor is the distance, thinking about in New York State, there's a distance in the North Country, and also when you come from here to about Westchester, some majors, some colleges, you're very limited in your choice to do that. So if I can't get them to come up here, at least I have that flexibility to provide choice for folks. So online education, just like that, is not for everybody. You have to be a very self-motivated person to be doing that. Also, my differentiation is not the same as a free MOOC or anything. You're not getting me in that MOOC. You're not getting mentorship, guidance. You're not getting real-world experience that's going to supplement what you're doing. Right. I think there's way added value, not just a credential which you're going to need. My impetus for getting my doctorate degree was because I needed the letters after my name to know what the passion I already had. And so the credential sometimes makes a huge difference.
I'm not questioning it.
Right. So I think I have a differentiated service than that. But I would promote people to keep doing those things. If there's something you want to learn about and continue and be a lifelong learner, there's nothing wrong with doing, MOOCs or other type online education. So I think my target market's very, very, very different than the folks who would be attracted to doing that.
I got you. Thank you.
What do you think differentiates you from the other schools in the capital region?
I think our level of service, our level of commitment, I think the breadth of the things that we provide and the format that we provide are different than some of our competitors' institutions. That doesn't mean they're not great. It's a different experience. And I've been fortunate enough to talk to many students who we've had who said, oh, I've been to other places and I finally found my home here. I finally found a group of people that care about me. Good or bad, we're going to, hunt you down and make sure that you're getting the most out of it. It is not unlike us to do a speech in class saying, get to class. If I know your roommate and you're sleeping and not coming to class, you're texting your roommate and getting them to class. Because somebody's paying for you to be here, whether it's you, your parent, or my tax dollars, get to class. Because that's important. You have to be in the game. And so we care a lot about development and growth. Whether you're 20 years old or you're 50 years old, we still want to make sure that you're getting something out of it for your journey. And I think that's different than other places. We truly, it's not lip service, we truly care. Here at Sage, and particularly in school management, we care.
Okay, that's very awesome. I absolutely, still being in the school journey myself, still finishing my bachelor, some of the things that you said made, a lot of sense and were really relevant, and I like the business, how we were kind of able to open that up. So I wanted to thank you for coming in and sharing the time and giving us an opportunity, kind of giving us a peek into how things rock and roll at Sage College. And just thank all of you for coming. It's just great to have you all here, and hopefully you learned some things, perhaps that you didn't exactly know about cybercrime and also about the Sage colleges. And again, I always have to thank the folks at Over It, waving at Scoops in the back and the booth back there, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do if all of you folks weren't here. And to my amazing video crew, who are always making it happen, limitless imprints. So thank you guys, awesome. So I think we're at a close.
Come talk to me if you want to talk about education. You can find us Sage online, School of Management. Come find me. I'd be happy to talk to you.
Kim, thanks.
On Twitter, not by me, though.
Right. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Awesome.